Shokuho is a total overhaul mod for Bannerlord that reimagines the game during Japan's Sengoku Jidai. With over 50 hours of gameplay under my belt, I've explored what sets it apart, where it shines, and what still needs some refinement. This video is a full review. We'll cover all the new content, integrated mods, how the gameplay changes, and if I think it's worth trying out. Let's get started. Shokuho drops you straight into 16th century Japan during the Sengoku Jidai, a brutal fragmented era of civil war where powerful clans fought for dominance over a fractured nation. There are many scripted events that take place that are pulled directly from history, and you can choose to either participate in them, ignore them entirely and do your own thing, or even turn them off in the settings. If you're a fan of other games like Shogun Total War, or even shows like Shogun, then you'll appreciate the amount of effort that went into the historical accuracy here. No Overhaul mod would be complete without a new map, and Shokuho really nails this one. Not only is the map accurate to real life, but it's organized in a logical way that makes the base game map feel amateur. The actual map itself feels much bigger than Calradia, but due to Japan's linear geography and the ability to travel faster on water, it doesn't feel grindy to traverse. Most towns and villages are connected by road, and as a bonus, roads actually provide a movement speed bonus. Why was this not in the base game? There are several large islands that can be accessed by ports, making it a little easier to defend, but by no means impenetrable. To cross the water, you can pay for a ferry or build your own fleet. The ferry has a set number of destinations that they can take you to, and the cost of the trip scales with the number of troops and companions that you have. Building your own fleet offers much more flexibility, but boats are very expensive to build, require time to construct, and have their own daily upkeep cost. It feels very well thought out and balanced. Overall, the map is extremely well done, visually, historically, and for gameplay balance. A map is only as good as the people and factions that inhabit it, and Shokuho does a phenomenal job creating a living, breathing world on top of it. While Bannerlord starts with 8 factions, this mod features several dozen, many with their own culture, troop trees, leadership, flags, and unique identity. This completely transforms the pacing of the early and mid game. The map feels alive, with plenty of wars, changing alliances, and historical events popping up to shape the country as a whole. During character creation, you do have the option to pick your starting culture, and will have many more options than the base game. It follows the same formula, with 2 bonuses and 1 debuff to keep things interesting. I'm still partial to the campaign map movement speed bonuses though. Britannia never dies.
What is dead may never die!
To me, the most impressive part of Shokuho are the units. To say that every unit was redone feels almost like an insult, like it doesn't go far enough. We'll talk about the troop trees in a moment, but literally every single unit in the game was redone. Even the units you may never see in your campaign. For example, bandits that only spawn for a specific quest, completely redone. Poachers that only show up for a single quest, redone. Looters, bandits, criminals inside towns, they're all redone. I've played other Overhaul mods that did a great job with the obvious troop trees, but I've never seen such attention to detail before as we see here. It reminds me of a Japanese interview I watched many years ago that left an impression on me. A janitor was cleaning underneath furniture, and the interviewer asked him why, since nobody will ever look under there. And he said he cleans it because he knows the dirt was there, and he takes pride knowing that his job was done thoroughly. While the developers of this mod aren't Japanese, the same passion and spirit can be felt and seen. One aspect of the troop trees that I personally love is the split between professional troops and peasant levies. This is the exact reason I prefer using mods like Duré Military and True Armies of Calradia. You can't take peasants and turn them into tier 5 tanks. The worst troops generally go from tier 1 and stop at tier 3, while the best troops can go all the way up to tier 6, but they're separated by a social structure. This makes armies so much more diverse and battles more dynamic. One thing you'll also notice is a distinct lack of handheld shields. There are some passive shields that can be equipped on the back to soak up arrows, but no more impenetrable shield walls. Even if shields were allowed, they would be mostly useless since gunpowder units are ever present here, and would pierce shields with ease. We need to move on now, otherwise I could spend a full hour going over each unit and gushing about how amazing they all look. But I'll end this section by saying the units and troop trees are some of the best I've ever seen in a mod before. One aspect that ironically gets overlooked is UI design. I say ironically because I forgot to include it myself in this review earlier. All buttons and borders have been replaced with Japanese themes. The menu, character tabs, inventory tab, and everything else has been completely redone. Even the perk visuals were redone. Speaking of perks, since there are no more shields in the game, any perk that modifies shield stats has been redone. I'm telling you, these guys swept under the furniture. Nothing was left untouched. If I had to level one complaint about this mod, it's that the character models still need a bit of work. While most of them do look East Asian, they all tend to look similar and some are just off. With that said, they are working within the confines of the base game, and my guess is the base game isn't really meant for non-European-like features, so it may not even be their fault that it looks like this. But it is just something I felt I had to mention. Now let's talk about one of my favorite parts of this mod, castle and town design. In the base game, castles and towns look and feel very imposing with massive walls, and some even have layered defenses. But you quickly realize it's mostly for show because overrunning fortifications is fairly trivial, and the AI refuses to use the different layers. In Shokuho, the actual walls look laughably easy to overcome, and for the most part that's true, they're easy to defeat. But then you realize there are several layers to get through, winding roads that make you feel disoriented and lost, and the whole time you're being shot at from further up the hill. These sieges will attrition you both mentally and physically, which is mostly a good thing. After you've fought a few dozen sieges, you'll be much more tempted to auto-resolve and take heavy losses to avoid this pain. But isn't that what a siege was meant to feel like in the first place? That covers a lot of the bigger topics, so let's shift to some of the smaller changes that really add flavor to the game. Tournaments have new settings, either outside in a training yard or inside a dojo. You'll still get the familiar 1 vs 1, 2v2, and 4-way free-for-all, but it's all done on foot. Most combat is done with two-handed swords or swingable polearms, although archer versus archer does happen a fair amount. One nice detail I wanted to mention is when you're doing the free training tournament, enemy combatants come from the group around the edge of the fighting map. You'll need to defeat everyone to win the training tournament, which is a real thing from karate, and it's a nice touch. Throughout the map, you'll spot duel locations pop up. Go inside and you'll find a combat master that you can fight against and are greeted with an amazing scene. If you do manage to win the duel, you'll earn a modest quest-sized money reward and some random items. I usually got food. You'll also come across battlefield remains that can be explored and looted. It's similar to how bandit camp raids work in that you pick a handful of troops to escort you and you'll fight waves of bandits. There are piles of loot on the floor that you can get gear from. It's also a great way to level up troops or get specific companions some combat XP. Bandit hideouts got a new coat of paint as well. It's basically the same mechanics as the base game, but the map is redone and the units aside are different, but otherwise it's unchanged. Dotted all over the map are different temples. You can purchase books to help you level up certain skills or recruit unique troops. In order to recruit, you'll have to donate to the temple to raise your relations with them. And temples are not connected, so each one will need to be leveled up independently. But the units here are really good and often level up to tier 6. Let's talk about some of the extra mods that were bundled, diplomacy being the most impactful. Bannerlord has a notoriously bad diplomacy system, and this mod does a great job adding basic functionality like war exhaustion, truce periods, alliances, non-aggression pacts, and more. You'll still find yourself at war on multiple fronts, and the AI will still make idiotic war votes, but at least you can now have an impact throughout raiding, wiping out armies, taking out caravans, etc. to build up war exhaustion and reduce the number of wars that you're in. You can also pay a small fee to send a messenger to anyone on the map you've previously met, which makes recruiting nobles and hiring new companions much easier. Another mod I have not mentioned is the cut-through mod. All weapons now have cut-through and not just two-handed axes. It's extremely satisfying to slice through 2, 3, or even more enemies with one massive katana slash from the back. The most important question that should be asked when it comes to mods is how stable is it? In my experience, the mod is very stable. I did run into a few crashes, but this was on a test build, and the dev team fixed every crash that I presented them with within a day or less. The performance was on par with the base game Bannerlord, and I was even able to run 2,000 unit battles while using other mods. By the time this mod goes public, I'm confident it will run smoothly for most people. My advice is to have realistic expectations though. It's still janky Bannerlord underneath, and you'll experience some issues from time to time, but overall, I think it will be stable. Looking back at my notes, there were a few areas of the game that I didn't talk about yet, like the economy, trade, and workshops, but I feel like I would need more time and testing to make objective statements about those. I will say the economy feels a bit easier to make money with. I had some luck with silversmith workshops, but had several other workshops that stayed at zero profit for months. A lot of new items were added to the game, which makes balancing the economy a difficult task, but from what I can tell, it's easier to make money with this mod than it is in the base game. I also didn't get enough time with naval combat to give a solid opinion on, since all of my battles happened on land, but it looks really interesting and could add layers to defensive strategy. Most of what I've covered up to this point has been objectively looking at the mod, what it adds, what it does well or poorly, but I'd like to steer the script towards how the mod feels to play. From the cutscenes to character creation, taking your first steps inside a Japanese town, getting mowed down by actual samurai, it all made me feel like I was actually in Japan during the Sengoku Jidai. All those little details add up, and while the gameplay loop isn't too different from the base game, there's enough difference to make it feel like you're not really playing Bannerlord. Or at least it was for the early and the mid game. Combat was much more chaotic since there's really no safe place to be on the battlefield. Stray arrows or gunshots could drop you at any moment, and without shields there's no way to avoid it. Melee engagements felt more visceral, with no shields and everybody wielding weapons that can drop you in 1 to 2 hits. It really sells the intensity and desperation of combat. Attacking ranged units in a siege was always won or lost by inches, usually with me getting shot in the face before I could reach them. Overall, it's a great mod with a massive amount of work that went into it. The attention to detail is second to none. From troop trees to gear to historical factions, it all adds up to an amazing experience. I wholeheartedly endorse this mod. Give it a try once it's out and you won't be disappointed. A huge shout out to the YouTube members and Patreon supporters who help support the channel. Your help is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and we'll see you on the next one.